Coverage of fall camp continues, which is brought to you by the Illinois Army National Guard as we preview the Saluki offense with your Saluki radio crew. Alongside Mike Trude, I am Luke Martin. By the way, first things first, Mike Trude, weather much better here at fall camp after the initial start of this thing. And you look at from a Saluki offense perspective, which is what we're looking at today. Last year, difference in terms of efficiency numbers, offense and defense. The offense was almost 20 points behind the defense and efficiency numbers. This year, it's why they want to be more efficient and really more consistent.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it comes down to playmakers. And last year, there were playmakers, but for whatever reason, at certain times during a game or during the season, we couldn't get the ball into the playmakers' hands. And there's many factors that led into that, but that has to be something that they have to improve upon this year.
Looking up front on the offensive line, you have 8 players who have played in double-digit college games. Half of those have played in 20 or more. So when you look up front, when you look at Coach Clark's group, what stands out to you?
Just the consistency. You've got guys last year who started just about every single game for the second straight year. So now this is the third consecutive year. A couple positions have changed, but there's still that core group of 3 or 4 guys that have been there every single play for this team. That's the consistency you want. Then you brought in some transfers. Cameron Dye, for example. You've got Noah Fensky eligible this year. Some more power for that line where an injury here or there shouldn't bog them down that much. And hopefully this will be the year that Salukis can run the ball with abandon.
Let's look at that running back room. Roll Elliott was the leading rusher on this team by almost 200 yards, and he played in 3 less games than the second leading rusher. LaShawn Lester back. Jalen Benefield, who's had a great collegiate career, didn't necessarily showcase that in a lot of numbers last year. He is back. And then you got some newcomers in. Eddie Robinson's really been impressive in camp.
He has been. He's a transfer from Duquesne who has shown some brilliant stuff getting outside, but it's going to boil down to, can you run the ball between the numbers? And that's where Sean Lester can really be good. North and south, he's a very good running back. Jalen Benefield's the guy who can hit a crease, but he can also get to the outside. Wittrell Hartson, the Ohio State transfer, can also potentially be a really good back. But Eddie Robinson from Duquesne, I think, is the guy that will really firm up that running back spot and give them that opportunity. You have to have 3 or 4 guys.
Receiver room was maybe a little bit of a weak spot last year. Deontay Cox was no doubt a trustworthy receiver that you could rely on, but there weren't 4 or 5 guys that Coach Grant could rotate in there. You look at the newcomers that come in, Mike, there's a lot of help. All of those guys, 4 of them, 4 of the 5 that are new to that room, had 20 receptions or more at their previous school. So they've been the guy before. What's impressed you about those guys intermixing with some of the guys who have been in the program? Vincent Davis, who we know, Alan Middleton, of course, and of course Cal Weideman's been big.
Yeah, I really like Lewis and Hezekiah. Those guys have shown they were here in the spring, which is such an advantage to transfer in the spring, get spring ball, summer, and the fall. Hezekiah is just a big, huge receiver. He mentioned you. He really likes the contact. He had a really good scrimmage the other day. Lewis is a speed demon from Wisconsin who played Big Ten, made a lot of catches, scored some touchdowns. We know that he can get by defensive backs. Alan Middleton, a return guy from a year ago, was a guy who really surprised the coaches last year, but his ability to make the catches, he's not the largest guy in the world, but he makes catches. And then Vincent Davis, old reliable from Charleston Southern, was phenomenal a year ago, and his role is going to be stepped up again this year too. So with the addition of the guys coming in, it's a much deeper group than a year ago.
Give credit to Jay Jones. He had a good scrimmage in fall camp, and also Tay Marrero, who we haven't seen yet a ton because he's working himself back up to get healthy. He had 50+ receptions, almost 1,000 yards at the College of Charleston for him a year ago. You look at the tight ends, Aiden Quinn's the guy who leads the way for that group, but in fall camp, it's been more of a question of, can Ryan Schwindeman make that jump? And others behind Schwindy, how can they come along to really make that room one of the big strengths? Because as you know, when Salukis have been good, the tight ends have been good.
Yeah, without question. Aiden, there's no issue about what he can do when he's on the field. Schwindeman had a kind of an up and down year. We never thought he was going to be able to finally catch a pass and get into the end zone, and he's maybe one of the best receivers on the team. struggled early on, but really came on. And then Hogue is another capable tight end. So I'm not worried about the tight end position either. It's going to be, again, the consistency game in and game out.
And we end with the quarterbacks. I know everyone's probably like, man, talk about the quarterbacks. Talk about the quarterbacks. Yeah, who? What position? I mean, we've covered every storyline. It seems like both have had their good days in camp, and both have also had some tough days. I think what Coach Hill has told us all the way since the beginning of fall camp is really going to play out. We're going to see both of them.
Yeah, I believe, and that some people say you can't have two quarterbacks because then you don't have one. But these two have different attributes, but they also have some very similar attributes. The biggest difference between the two is DJ Williams has played 2 out of 3 years at the quarterback position for Murray State, throwing for over 2,500 yards in those 3 combined seasons. He sat out 1 year with a red shirt, where Hunter Simmons has really only played very marginally. Why? Because he was behind Nick Baker. Hunter has all the tools to be a phenomenal quarterback in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. He's yet to be able to showcase those skills, but he is showing them here in fall camp. He did in summer as well. DJ is a proven commodity who's been to South Dakota. He's been to some of these venues where he knows what to expect. Hunter's been there as well. He just hasn't been able to get in those games. I think both are capable of doing the job. I think Nick's going to look to be maybe that one guy who can be the most consistent, play in, play out, and make plays when they have to be made.
And keep in mind, there is still half of fall camp to go as practice number 8 just underway here behind us. We'll be back next week to dive more into that Saluki defense that was so good a year ago, but they're ready to make even bigger strides here in the fall of 2024. For my partner, Mike Trude, I am Luke Martin. We'll talk to you next week, Saluki Nation.